Hello, it's a beautiful April day. The sun is out and making the most of it just by sitting out in the garden. Now I wanted to let you into or give you a bit of insight on the audio and more specifically the music that I use on my channel, because sometimes I get comments back on the videos like, you're playing this piece of music in the background, but it's not composed by the composer that you're talking about. So for example, I might be doing a portrait of a Baroque artist, and in the background you can just faintly hear some Bach music playing, but say the artist is Geminiani, whereas it would have been a lot better to have Geminiani music playing in the background. The problem with that is that you will rapidly get a copyright strike from YouTube if you try and do that. Sometimes you can get lucky. You might be able to sample a live performance of somebody performing a piece that isn't copyrighted, which I suppose is a little bit cheeky to use that, but as long as you credit the musician, I suppose that's okay. But so generally you have to make sure that you're using licensed music. Now personally I prefer the video to have some background music, because I feel that it makes it more pleasant to listen to rather than just my voice. I try not to make my voice sound too dull, but and I'm not like a professional documentary maker by any means. I do this for fun. I enjoy doing the research and I enjoy recording it so that firstly I can, if I forget who Geminiani was in 3 years' time, I can rewatch my own video and refresh my memory. And secondly, I hope that other people are enjoying the content as well. And the benefit of interacting with an audience on YouTube is you get comments. Sometimes I even get corrected by viewers who are more knowledgeable than me, which is completely awesome. Usually I might not necessarily redo the whole video, but I might acknowledge that in the comments, and people can see in the comments where a mistake has been addressed. And that's also a learning curve to make sure that future videos are more accurate. But coming back to the music audio, I use, and I will share with you, I've got nothing to hide about my method and approach. I use Epidemic Sound and I use Artlist. And the classical content on those is rather shocking, to be honest. There is some content, but it's nowhere near as vast as what I'd like it to be, particularly for violin repertoire and chamber music. So for example, if I search for something by Gounod, I might be lucky. There might be an opera recording available. But if I search for something by Geminiani, forget it. So I have done some considerable hunting around for music, or to pay for a subscription so that you can then use the music in YouTube. So there is YouTube's own audio library, which is fine, but it again is severely limited in terms of classical. But what's good about that is you get entire concerto movements. So you'll get the Tchaikovsky 1812 or William Tell. So as a result, I'm restricted to the music I can use, and my dog's barking, which maybe that means there's an order coming. Let me pause a second.
A few moments later.
I'm back. It was only Amazon. Anyway, the long and short of it is that I use YouTube audio, I use Epidemic Sound and Artlist, and I'm limited to the classical music that's available on there, which is not a great deal of repertoire, which is a sad reflection of society. But then, okay, you get thousands and thousands of dance music tracks, but limited classical, very limited violin. But then again, we do belong to the cognoscenti, so that's another way of looking at it. But yeah, that's just to share with you some insight on how I go about selecting audio for my videos. And really what I'm asking is a favour. If you know of where I can get really decent classical and particularly violin audio that I could use for YouTube, that I could pay for if it's on a subscription basis, other than those two I've mentioned, then please let me know in the comments. You could share your wisdom with me. I did, for example, try contacting Naxos, because they have lots of awesome content and they provide free album downloads if you subscribe to their newsletter. What happens with them is you'll get a copyright strike, but it won't remove your video. It's just the video would not be able to be monetized if you were to go down that route. But they don't pull the video, which is good of Naxos. But anyway, they weren't really able to advise me on how I could, say, purchase an individual track. I think it'd be awesome if they enabled you to, Naxos in particular, to buy, say, the Bach double violin concerto for $10 or something, and then you could use that in, even if it's for a single video. But there isn't that flexibility there. So like I say, yeah, if you got any suggestions, if you make content around use of classical music, that'd be great. I guess the pros, they go directly to the Deutsche Grammophon and directly to the record labels to get licensed, but they're paying scary amounts, I suppose. With YouTube Shorts, it's much more straightforward because there's a huge selection of snippets that you can select when you upload your short, and you're covered. But they don't exceed 1 minute, and when you're selecting, what I've noticed, when you're selecting Jascha Heifetz's background tracks, you have to be careful because some of those do still result in a copyright strike, or more commonly, the content is not visible in certain regions, which is annoying. You don't know then how that affects the reach of your video specifically, and I guess the Jascha Heifetz estate are pretty aggressive about protecting their I guess it's RCA Victor maybe, about protecting their copyright. So in this ever-changing digital world with advancing technology, it's interesting how things evolve from 78 RPMs to LPs to CDs. Some still prefer the sound of vinyl, actually. There's an argument for that. To now everything is streaming and digital, and how that's affected the whole licensing models and revenue for artists and all the rest of it. But at the same time, it's a great opportunity, like for musicians who are maybe not made it in the classical scene because it's such an aggressive competitive environment, but they're good classical musicians and they can upload their tracks to, say, Epidemic Sound, and they can earn money through people like me using those tracks on their videos, and that's totally awesome. And I wish more classical musicians would do that, so we could get, maybe that's a solution, is for more artists to contribute to Epidemic Sound Art List. Let me know if there's other streaming sites that you recommend, particularly for classical music, that are not too extortionate rip-off price-wise. Alright, I think I'm going to enjoy the sun now. Ciao for now.